a lot of times, the reason why you're not achieving the goal is not because you don't have the talent, it's because you don't have the mindset. So whether it's a care plan and I get a referral from, it could be a psychotherapist or something like that, it's the execution of that care plan, but really we need to build the mindset that supports it to execute it.
Welcome. Thank you so much for coming today. Today we are with Jessica Morales, and you are the founder of Be You Bloom.
Yes.
And we're talking about mindset. I have to say you're one of my favorite people in the entire world
to
address this topic with. We could go on for hours. We'll keep it short for today, but there's some really exciting things you have coming up. And you're a certified hypnotherapist.
Yes.
And I want you to kind of talk a little bit about what you do and how you do it, because you have this fantastic blend of disciplines and I think a really incredible ability to help people. So tell us a little bit about Be You Bloom and what you do.
Absolutely. And you're one of my favorite people, by the way, so it's mutual. So hypnotherapy is, I feel, in many ways, a misunderstood modality. I don't know if you've come across that as well, as it comes up in your practice, sometimes holistic care and talking about the different approaches. But hypnotherapy is just using hypnosis in a therapeutic environment with the power of positive suggestion, using guided visualization, imagery techniques. We relax the physical body. And you were an athlete, so you would know, like, you learn better when the body is relaxed, when everything is much more relaxed, right? I always think about baseball players when they hit the ball and they're all tensed up and they can't hit the ball where they want to, but the moment they relax, they hit that home run. And so that's what hypnosis does. It physically relaxes the body, gets rid of fight or flight, anxiety, and stress. So you can heighten your mental alertness and focus on the issue using your best mental assets.
And is that something that is a habit that needs to be trained, or is that something that like, oh, I learned how to relax and now I'm there?
It depends on the client. It depends on the client. So sometimes people will come in and relaxation can be really hard. We've talked about that too, how, some people are just not prone to that or embrace it as much. But it's our job to create that environment and build the trust and build the rapport. Some clients, it takes a little bit longer. We do more deepening techniques, progressive relaxation techniques. We're relaxing the muscles. And you almost see like the client drop down, like relax, like they're just like, woof. And they feel so good. Sometimes they're just like, don't wake me up, which is kind of ironic because they're not asleep, which some people think it's sleep. We use the term deep sleep. It's not sleep. It's sort of like when you're about to go to sleep, that in-between moment between consciousness and complete delta waves, just that in-between where you feel, I kind of feel it. I feel it when I go under is sort of that buzzing sensation, that relaxed sensation. But like I said, the mind is completely focused. And because it's so focused on your issue that you want to resolve, the white noise, everything in the background it sort of like disappears. So imagine if you can approach all your issues or problems with that kind of awareness, what the results would be.
That sounds a lot better than being incredibly stressed out over my to-do list and the pros and cons and how I'm going to get through a certain issue.
Exactly. And that's the studies showed that the person's ability to resolve that issue tends to be a lot quicker with the use of hypnotherapy. And it's a wonderful complement to modalities like with acupuncture and any kind of medical condition. It's a wonderful complementary modality. We really focus on actually making the move forward, pulling the client forward instead of staying in the past. We process through the emotions, and then what would we like to do to move you forward? How would you like to feel instead? So,
and is that patient or client driven, or is that driven by the therapist? Like, do people come to you and say, well, this is where I want to be and this is what I want to work on? Yes. Or do they also uncover things through that process that, oh, wait, actually, this is something I need to work on. We need to go down this road as well. Yes. How does that work?
So always driven by the client, always, because you are most adjustable to yourself. You believe yourself always.
Yeah, that's true.
Think about a disagreement with your partner. Yeah. You're always right.
I am right.
And so a good hypnotherapist really is not taking over that session, is really just gently guiding the client and determining what it is they wish to feel instead in the positive. And it's interesting because things do come up, aspects do come up that they may have thought they were coming in for one thing, and as you're connecting with the client, something else comes up. Or even when we're doing that part of the session, the hypnotic session, something else comes up. But nothing will come up that you don't want to come up. So people go, oh my gosh, is it mind control? Or am I not going to know what I'm... No, it doesn't work like that. Even stage hypnosis, it's because you're allowing yourself to do those things.
That makes it less scary.
Yes. I've had a few doctors come to me, and one actually just wrote me a wonderful testimonial. He said, I was so scared, and then I realized there was nothing to be scared of. He said, I was so aware. In fact, I was hyper aware in such a great way that if he wanted to, he could hear the tick-tock of the clock 2 doors down because he's so laser focused. And it's kind of what athletes do when they use imagery and visualization, and they're focused on winning and what that feels like, sounds like, tastes like. They think and bring up anything that can come up that can circumvent them from getting to that goal. And we go and walk through that. And then when they're literally conditioning the physical body and training the physical body using their mind power. And it's so fascinating. Amazing. It is a Tiger Woods. A lot of athletes use this, Michael Phelps, but they call it imagery visualization. It's the same thing that we're using.
Isn't that interesting though? Like now you see that trickle down effect. Like first it's the elite athletes or celebrities, and it's the same in my industry too with acupuncture. I'm like, professional athletes have already been doing, they already know acupuncture works. So the professional athletes, they already know that works. They understand that visualization is important, that mindset is important, that taking the time out of their day and their schedule to focus on just this and their goals and where they want to progress to is very important. So
important, because a lot of times the reason why you're not achieving the goal is not because you don't have the talent, it's because you don't have the mindset. So whether it's a care plan and I get a referral from, it could be a psychotherapist or something like that, it's the execution of that care plan, but we need to build the mindset that supports it to execute it, right? So going in allows you to do that and work with the emotional part of the mind that holds a lot of those self-sabotaging belief systems. Yes, because it's in the subconscious that your life script is housed, how you feel about things, memories and associations. So we want to connect and speak the language of the subconscious mind, which are images, pictures, and symbols. That's how the brain likes to learn. So that's something that I incorporate a lot in guided imagery. I'm a master practitioner with guided imagery. But I bring in all sorts of different, like you said, I bring in all sorts of things. I also, I've been in business. Gosh, it's been over 2 decades in business development and account management, and I've always loved business and hiring people, but I've always been fascinated about what makes people want to flourish in a workplace and do their best, right? So we have to care about their personal improvement so they bring their best to the workplace. So I've been able to merge all this and bring it to the corporate world as well.
That's amazing.
Yes.
And I think it's something that often gets overlooked, or people think like, oh, mindset is just like the hot term of the moment. But as you're saying, no, this has factored into everything you've done over the last 2 decades, not just when it comes to hypnosis, but anything that you're doing, your mindset will absolutely factor into that. And let's talk a little bit about that, because I think there's also a misconception that, mindset just means like, I'm going to be positive and I'm going to think of this in a good way. And there's so much more to that, so much more science behind it.
Yes.
And you and I have had a conversation about like neuroplasticity. So tell us a little bit about that and your experience and what you've seen and you've read.
Here's the thing, and this is what I tell whether I'm speaking at a workshop or speaking engagement or with clients, they are fascinated by the fact that over 95% of your behaviors day to day, those behaviors are driven by your subconscious mind. So if you're not aware of your automatic tendencies, because you're in pilot mode, right? You're not aware, you're not learning how to drive every day. You're not learning how to, do your daily tasks at work. In fact, the workplace is a big space where you're largely in a heightened suggestibility. So if someone triggers you, that could just change your day to the negative. So you have to be really aware that what's driving you is the subconscious, I use the image of an iceberg. We do in my modality quite a bit, in fact. The top of that iceberg is that conscious mind, but that behemoth underneath, that's the subconscious. And if you're not aware of it, and it's driving something for you that's not working for you, it can have disastrous effects, right? So you have to be aware of what's underneath
the surface,
right? The rational, analytical mind. So the emotion of what's driving this. So if somebody wants to lose weight, for example, they have a conscious desire to do that, and it feels good for X amount of time, and then they go back to the original identity, because that original identity is housed in the life script of the subconscious. So we need to work there in order to make that change stick for the long term. That's why that's so important. So I was fascinated. I'm just so fascinated with neuroplasticity and brain plasticity. I think it's just so cool.
Powerful.
It is super cool. And so I have to say this really funny thing, because if I don't mention it, I'm going to regret it. But I have a special needs brother. His name is Rodney. He's amazing. And when we were younger, Rodney used to say, make your mind, make your mind. And then I realized one day, this was this year, for some reason, those words came to my head and my tears came, because I said, wow, my brother was so ahead of neuroscience and neuroplasticity. He knew you could actually make your mind. So I dedicated my first book, my journal, which is coming out, to my brother, that you can indeed make your mind. So imagine yourself as the programmer, and your mind is malleable. We used to think it was hardwired and that there's nothing you can do with it. And we found now that it's not, it's malleable. So if you picture you're the programmer, and here's your brain in your hands, and I want to shape it and sculpt it by my thoughts and by my behaviors, right? So if I have a lot of negative self-chatter, that's what I'm imprinting into my brain. Right. And that's so your neurons are communicating in such a way that you are hardwiring that way. But if you choose the opposite instead, and you communicate that with repetition, through thinking, mental rehearsal, and behaviors over and over again, your body literally secretes those feel-good hormones and attaches positive associations to that change. And eventually this communication becomes so rapid that it hardwires a new blueprint, a new program. You upgrade your software in your mind. And I absolutely get so excited about that.
It's like the science behind habit.
Absolutely. It's the science of changing your brain, the science of rewiring it, and the science of influencing your brain. But if you knew everything I think and everything I do is literally influencing my brain, you would heighten that awareness and decide to do things a little bit differently, wouldn't you?
Absolutely. No, right? You would have the mindset that that's important. No, you would realize this is important.
Yes.
I'm not hardwired. I can choose this. I think that's really empowering for people who want to make a change.
Yes.
Who think, oh, I'm stuck. No, like you're not, because a huge percentage of what you're doing is determined by you and your thoughts, and how you're then choosing to act on those thoughts as well.
I just had a visual, by the way, when you said I'm not hardwired. It needs to be a t-shirt for you. I am not hardwired. I might have to do that.
Coming up with business ideas right now.
I'm a marketer.
I know. It's like all those years in business, you can't help it.
That is my script. That's part of the one that I want to keep in my brain. It's the ability to market. No, I absolutely love that, because you said something really important. Okay, so you mentioned about becoming motivated and by just having that awareness, literally, it's like your brain is like, okay, let's go. Let's start creating. Let's start finding solutions. And one of my biggest passions is to teach people how to become their own mind coach. To literally, because I am not with that person 24 hours a day. And we know, we've spoken about this, that we all have bad days and we're by ourselves. And how do you pull yourself out that? How do you reverse that verse? Something that I teach, and change the feeling to something that's more beneficial and positive. But it has to come from intrinsic motivation. Otherwise, the change is just for X amount of time, and then the person reverts back to the old behaviors.
It's like someone in a relationship who wants to change just to make the other person happy.
Good point.
And they have no desire to do it themselves, or like, I don't really mind this part of myself. Like, I'm just like trying to avoid conflict. So
good point.
Yeah, it has to come from inside.
Good point.
It shouldn't be dependent on another person, whether it's, you know, you as a practitioner, like, oh, I can only help myself when I'm with her. No, like you're teaching these skills so that people can then go home and continue to build on that.
And one of two things. One thing that you meant when you mentioned this, you know, I was teaching a course. I also teach at the Screen Actors Guild. I was an actor for a long time and member of the union, and I still love it. But when you find your path, you're like, oh, this is what it is. I call it accept the redirect. You get accept the redirect. Yeah, so I got redirected. Yeah, and my actors will say to me, but when you're teaching, you could see you're in flow state. This is what you're meant to be doing. I accepted the redirect instead of holding on to, oh, but I want to be an actor. I want to be an actor. No, go that direction. And then here we are years later, and I'm working with actors on their mindset, right? Because they get told a lot of no's, and it could be hard. But I remember one time, this one workshop, an older gentleman, he was probably in his mid-50s. He came over to me afterwards, and he had his eyes were like tearful. I said, oh no, because I'm very emotional, by the way. I'm like, here it comes.
I know.
I know, yes. I want to see people win. And he comes over to me and he grabs my hands and he says, what I took from your workshop is that I don't have to wait to be rescued. I can drive my mind to thrive, and I am going to take charge of my career. Hearing that from somebody who is now a little bit older, I still think young, mid-50s, but to know that he got his power back in that workshop was, can you imagine what he did after that related to his self-improvement, but also how he looks at his performance career?
Yeah.
You know, and that's what I want for people to know, that they are empowered. They just need the data in order to do it. I did the same thing at Corona State Prison. You're like, Jessica, performers to prisoners.
I know, like, well, what don't you do? Maybe I'm a shorter list.
I'm taking you with me. I literally was invited to speak at Corona State Prison about a month ago. And I thought I was going to have maybe 20 girls or women. I had 65, and they were amazing. And the title of my talk was "Use Your Time to Build a New Mind." And when I gave them the content and the data, they were like, "No one has ever told us that we could do that."
Yeah.
And so afterwards, I received packets of letters, and it was just, again, the tears, of course. And just, Jessica, every day I am being my first cheerleader. Every day I'm fighting for myself because I know I can create my mind now. Wow. So I'm excited for their future. Right now we're in talks about developing a course for the women. They want more. Yeah.
Well, I think that's sometimes the thing. Like, people are eager to change, or they're eager to implement new things, but they don't even know, where do I even start? So that kind of leads us into talking about your journal that you have coming out. Because I'm fascinated by, you know, we talked about the amount of time that it actually takes to develop habit. Like, tell us about your journal, because I think it's a great launching pad for someone who wants to make changes and wants to learn more about the power of mindset and doesn't really know where to start.
Yeah, thank you so much. First of all, I'm so excited, and thank you for your support.
No, it's amazing.
You need to have a tribe that helps you thrive, and you're part of that tribe. That's what I have. Build a tribe that helps you thrive, and that there are cheerleaders with you. You know, you're your first cheerleader, and then people around you. That's one of my mind tips. So I kept hearing from people, and I hear speakers say, oh, it takes 21 days to build a new habit. But I was not experiencing that with the people that I work with, or through workshops or coaching, what have you. And I'm very realistic in that sense. Yeah. And I think we need to give ourselves grace for space to make change. We've developed ourselves all these years, and it's not going to just be like, boom, all of a sudden things happen. It takes work, and it takes willpower. And so I remember having this conversation. I said, I feel like it's more like a few months before people start really cementing that change. And so I found studies behind this that it takes an average of actually 66 days. And I said, well, that's about 2 months.
Yeah, exactly.
So some people earlier, other people might take longer. It depends on the change that you're trying to implement and how challenging that is for you, of course. But on average, 66 days. And here's the thing. So In other modalities, they would actually look down at putting an end zone. I call it the end zone. I picture you doing like your end zone thing.
Yeah, like,
your power move. I got this. And I'm so big on visuals. But I don't want to speak for other modalities, but it's that, oh, you shouldn't put like it takes this much time. What I found working with performers, and even I had a awesome football player who was in one of my workshops, they actually liked that they could actually get to an end zone and do these changes within a certain amount of time. It motivated them more. And so I use also something from my business side, the flawless execution plan. You're going to do this by this date by this day. I mean, if you want to work with me, you got to be ready to work.
Be ready to go.
Be ready to work. If you need more time, go somewhere. No, be ready to work. And so once I realized that, I said, oh my gosh, I would love to create a journal, because journaling, writing, especially in cursive, speaks to the subconscious mind. Have you ever journaled?
Yeah.
Do you hear yourself speaking as you're journaling?
Effective, yeah.
You feel, right? Or if you're writing music?
And it's interesting, when I haven't journaled for a while, I don't. And then as you get into the repetition of doing it again, that's when I have noticed I feel more connected to that process.
And you're more connected to your emotional brain, the subconscious brain. So I say, make those deposits count. So what I did was, the journal offers these 66 mind tips through writing, because you're connecting through the nervous system to the subconscious mind. Make those deposits count. Processing, the first 3 questions that I ask you in reflective questioning, super important to change into developing habits. The first 3 questions is about processing. I can't process it. I just created a new word for myself. I'm going to tell you how. Yeah. Processing before blossoming is what did I say? Processing. We'll work on it.
Yes.
But so the first 3 questions is about processing your day-to-day using the mind tip that day. And then the last 3 questions is about blossoming. How do you wish to change that? What new habits? What's your new truth statement about yourself from the reflective questions of that day? Then I take them into imagery and visualization, so that they can imagine and visualize that truth statement using all of their senses and going in deeper into the subconscious. And my favorite one is, the next step is child's play. It's your flow zone. So I want you to use your inner child. Unleash the beast of your inner child. And you would be surprised from the images and pictures and symbols you get from your visualization journey. I want you now to bring it to outer consciousness and put it on paper now and draw it.
Wow.
And you'll be surprised, because people go, oh, well, what am I going to get from that?
Yeah, or I can't draw, or just do the exercises.
Just do it, because I did it, and I did it through a very difficult, let's say, peer-to-peer work situation. And I didn't know how it was going to resolve itself. So I used this, and what came out in imagery and what I drew months later became the solution.
Wow.
It was amazing. It was
incredible.
I cried over that. Do I cry over everything?
I think it's okay to cry through a breakthrough.
It's happy. I just get so happy. I'm like, oh my gosh. So I wanted, so you do that for 33 days. Then you have the choice to opt in or not to do it for another 33 days. Because if you feel great at 33, stop. You can continue to use just the mind tips, or you can go ahead and do the journaling and the exercises. It's very forgiving. It's like, if you miss a day or 2, so what? Pick it back up.
Exactly.
I mean, you get
not
busy.
like you're off track now.
No, like you suck, you're off track. No, it's like, okay. So I put number your days. It says, what number are you at? And you just pick it back up. And that's it. And then by the end of the 66 days, you declare your new modus operandi. So how your mind operates. This is the way my mind will operate, perceive, and believe moving forward. And by writing it down, tearing it off, and putting it somewhere, you can remind yourself again and again. So it's a really interactive and cool journal. I'm so excited about it. It's going to come out soon on Amazon.
I'm so excited for you. And so, yes, when we post this, we're going to have links below so people can get your journal. Because I think people get caught up. Like, they're like, well, okay, if I want to change, how do I change? Yes. And it sounds like a great blend of, like, the right and left brain individuals.
Yes.
You know, like, there's, like, the big picture, creative, like, oh, I'm going to be journaling, I'm going to do this, that. And then also, like, left brain who's like, give me the instructions. There's data. Okay, good. There are studies that this takes 66 days. I will complete the 66 days.
Which one are you more geared towards?
So what's interesting is I went to a seminar recently, and I've always thought I was very left-brained. And we had a lot of exercises and conversations around this. And I went home and I said to my partner, I said, Derek, I'm a right-brained individual and I have been raised as a left brain because that is what was valued.
That's a good point.
Growing up. And that was the structure that I was put into. And now that I've been running my own business, like I'm realizing, no, I actually like the right brain stuff. Like I want someone else to handle the left brain stuff. So I'm blessed to have that balance, but I do think I was much more right-brained coming here.
Yes.
But through, neuroplasticity and different things. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and that's the other thing I wanted to mention. Thank you, because through neuroplasticity, so what we find is that when I did the mind tips, I did this all from intuition and instinct. And I want people to trust that more. Get the ego out and self-criticism. You ever have like a movement that says, contact so-and-so or do such and such, and you're so excited to do that, and then you let time pass and you convince yourself it's a stupid idea.
Right?
Because ego, self-criticism, the critical mind edits your intuition. And it's important, obviously, not to do that. So when I did the journal and I created the mind tips, it was after that Dr. Stuart Donaldson, he's a pioneer in positive psychology and organizational positive psychology. I contacted him and he agreed and said he wanted to do a foreword for me in the journal. We don't want to take up too much space because it's your journal.
It's your journal.
But we wanted to give you a little quote from Rodney that you can make your mind, and then Dr. Donaldson. And he wrote something about building psychological capital based on hope, efficacy, resilience, and optimism. That is not the area that I've gone to school for, although I use a lot of positive interventions and approaches in my practice. It was literally probably a month later. I'm at a coffee shop where I dream build a lot. And I go, let me look up what he wrote. I should really know.
Should know what psychological capital is.
Or is this an opinion? And I know he's high. He is just, everything he does is academic and studies. He runs Claremont University and he's amazing. Travels the world literally teaching this stuff. And I look it up and I go, oh my gosh, PsyCap is a real thing. I wrote this journal from my heart. So I start looking up what makes up positive psychological capital. And it is the HERO mindset: hope, efficacy, resilience, and optimism. I sat there and I said, let me draw a quadrant: hope, optimism, efficacy, resilience. Where do my mind tips fall? And to my surprise, it was literally equally almost in each quadrant. And so the tears came again.
So you cried again.
Okay, so I cried again.
But it's incredible.
It's like that. Because it wasn't like I created it to fit into it.
Right.
I created it, this came up, and it just was a puzzle that went boom. And I said, I've got something really special here. Thank you, I receive it. And I'm going to give that. And I contacted him and I said, holy moly. And he was laughing and I said, this is a thing. He goes, of course it's a thing. I go, but you didn't tell me it was a thing. So I'm going to the conference in a couple of weeks to talk about this experience.
That is so exciting.
Yes.
And more people will get to hear about you and your journal.
Yeah.
I'm very excited for you. And I'm really excited for the people who will get to experience this information. Not everyone can have, the opportunity to be here in the flesh and work with you individually, but to be able to give that value to people who are not around you and will still be able to have so much growth and development and dive into their mindset.
Yeah, I want you to do it too.
Oh, I'm absolutely going to do it. Are you kidding? We'll do a follow-up.
We'll do a follow-up. What were your most surprising
go through the journal and we'll do a follow-up.
Yeah,
so
that sounds good.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here again.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. And I think everyone's going to get a lot out of what you had to say.
Oh, give me that good juice.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
No, you're so welcome.
Thank you.